Francis. Papa Francis aliaga dunia asubuhi ya Jumatatu baada ya kuongoza misa ya Pasaka siku ya Jumapili jijini Vatican. Papa amekuwa akiugua maradhi ya pneumonia sugu ya mapafu kwa miezi kadhaa sasa. And it was interesting that he actually made it to the Easter Mass on Sunday. Papa Francis atakumbukwa kwa kupigania wanyonge, uadilifu, usawa, haki na amani katika uongozi wake wa miaka 12. It's been 12 years actually. 12 years since 2013. Right. So, and we'll realize this is actually the biggest discussion, but in other stories kwa gazeti hili habari tofauti na kuhusu Papa Francis ni hii hapa, wanasema tupunguze county nchini ziwe 13 pekee. Senator Kajwang yule wa Homa Bay asema county ya 47 zina mzigo mzito wa mishahara na matumizi. What do you think? Should we actually reduce the number of counties? That's an interesting conversation there. Habari kamili kwenye ukurasa wa 5 wa gazeti.
47 to 13.
To 13. That is reducing it by what?
20 something. 27?
Right. Kwenye spoti ni vita vya kufa mtu mbio balaa na top 5 EPL. Tuende kwenye Standard sasa.
The Standard, goodbye Pope. Yo umesema inasomwaje Bene what?
Benevale.
Benevale. Buriani, adios. Departing this world on Easter Monday, the holiest day in the Christian calendar, Pope Francis' passing marks the end of a transformative 12-year papacy. As the first Latin American to lead the Catholic Church, he redefined the role with humility, fairness, and an openness that often challenged tradition. Messages of condolences flooded the Vatican, united in tribute to a pontiff remembered as the people's pope, an empire of compassion in human form. Pages 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, and 8 of this newspaper pays tribute to the Pope, and the Pope is quoted here. In this world of globalization, we have fallen into a globalization of indifference. We are accustomed to the suffering of others. It doesn't concern us. It's none of our business. George Mario Bergoglio, that's his name, of course, before he assumed the name Pope Francis, and the 26th Pope as the second longest serving Pope. Yule ambaye anafuata served for, I think, 22 years. Yes. First Pope from the Americas or the Southern Hemisphere, first GSU to be elected to the throne of St. Peter. Jesuits were historically looked on with suspicion by Rome. Born to an Italian family that had escaped Benito Mussolini's fascist Italy, he was the eldest of 5 children. As a young man, he enjoyed tango dancing and became a supporter of his local football club, San Lorenzo. Bergoglio also worked as a nightclub bouncer and floor sweeper before graduating as a chemist. He was ordained a priest, becoming provincial superior for Argentina in 1973. He was named Auxiliary Bishop of Buenos Aires in 1992 and then became Archbishop, and Pope John Paul II made him a cardinal in 2001, and he was elected Pope in 2013. The Standard paying tribute to the Pope on the front page.
They've dedicated about 5 pages to the Pope in this paper.
Yes. Pontiff hailed as moral icon, voice of the voiceless, and a reformer. A radical leader who broke papal mold. What happens after the Pope dies? Reform, social justice, tackling abuse, 12 years of Pope Francis. The People's Pope sign off, leaving behind a church changed forever. Imagine kupata chance just to say goodbye.
A special one.
Yes.
And there's a very interesting photo on the second page of the Standard where the Pope, I think 2 years after he became Pope, and he traveled to Kenya in 2015, and he's seen there with Presidents Daniel Moi, President Mwai Kibaki, and President Uhuru Kenyatta. So 3 presidents who are all alive at the same time. That was in 2015. Interesting. Now, there's one thing that, okay, fine. With all this news about the Pope, it might escape our notice that there are other things happening as well. But the Standard has given us that. On page 10 and 11, President William Ruto has started his 5-day state visit to China. Ruto takes Kenya's wish list to Beijing as trade winds shift. And now they've done an analysis of Kenya's strategic bet to flirt with both the eagle, which is the US, and the dragon, which is China. So at least that is covered on pages 10 and 11 of the Standard. On the back page, masuala ya football. Lakini jana Boston Marathon ni kama tumekosea. John Korir. Kenyan John Korir won the Boston Marathon yesterday. And Sharon Lokedi, as well as Helen Obiri of Kenya, won the ladies' race in Boston yesterday. And congratulations to John Korir and Sharon Lokedi, as well as Helen Obiri. Okedi and Obiri wali swap to. Last year it was Obiri who was top. Okedi came second, now this time wali swap to.
Still a win. A win is a win.
A win is a win. Congratulations to all the Kenyan athletes. That's the Standard. Daily Nation. On the Daily Nation, of course, the front page doesn't have much details. It's just about the transition. But the coverage is on pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, and 12. Can imagine how many pages. And very interesting photos of the Pope carrying babies, kissing people's feet on pages 3. And that's the one thing that is very interesting about this Pope. Yeah. Niliona picha anakiss miguu ya Salva Kiir. Huyu wa South Sudan. Huyu mwenye amefungia jamaa mwingine kwa nyumba.
Well,
more photos of the Pope's visit to Kenya in 2015 on pages 4, 5. Day Pope Francis visited Kenya and spent time with the poor. He was in Kangemi at a church for over 2 hours in 2015. Then they've done a spread of who might succeed the Pope, some possible candidates. And yes, Cardinal Peter Kodo Apia Turkson, who's a Ghanaian. Yeah? Hapa wajaweka ule mwingine anaitwa Robert Sarah, but they have this Apia Turkson. We could have an African Pope.
Yeah. I think the Tanzanian one is just eligible to vote. Not
He's a cardinal.
To vie.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Other stories here about the Medihealth saga, ile ya kidney. Wanasema kwamba ati investigation triggered by a letter from global agencies of a suspicion of organ trafficking revealed that most kidney donors at Medihealth were from Mount Kenya region. And official data further indicates that Israelis accounted for the majority of recipients at the medical facility.
Nasikia jamaa alikuwa anauza kidney for 230,000, alafu inakuwa sold for 25 million kule kwingine.
Alafu anabaki na complications, hata hizi jitibu.
Hiyo 200 hata hizi kupeleka hospitali mara mbili.
Iwezi. All right. Let's see what else they have here.
I've seen on the back page an interesting story, tax exemption for investors who ship in 2 billion shilling worth of manufacturing equipment. This is intended to spur the return of manufacturing. Unajua zile taxation measures zilikuwa last year, zilifanya some companies wakafunga. So now I think they're trying to give incentive for those companies to come back to Kenya and continue with manufacturing, which will also provide jobs for many Kenyans.
Omena biscuits. Have you had something like that?
Omena biscuits?
Omena biscuits. Tackling Kenya's malnutrition with unlikely snack.
Wow, interesting. Some innovation there. So that's a Daily Nation. People Daily.
The People's Pope at 7:35. Nasema this morning. Yesterday. At 7:35 yesterday, that was 9:35 a.m. East African time, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and His church. He taught us to live the values of the gospel with fidelity, courage, and universal love, especially in favor of the poorest and most marginalized.
And I think what they did is just lift the Vatican message verbatim.
Yes.
That was delivered yesterday. That's the People Daily, also dedicating pages 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to the news of the Pope's death.
Yes. On page, this is page 2. They make mention of when Pope Francis defied U.S. alert to visit Kenya in 2015. That photo we saw on the Standard. Let's just hear about it kidogo. They say, known for his humility, progressive leadership, and tireless advocacy for social justice, Pope Francis left journalists in stitches when he brushed off security concerns during his visit in Kenya on November 25, 2015. When asked if he was concerned about security risks, the Pope quipped to tell you the truth. Okay, he quipped, to tell you the truth, the only thing I'm concerned about is the mosquitoes. Did you bring your spray? Huyo ni Pope.
Yeah, he was a funny guy. I think he's perhaps the most interesting Pope in my lifetime.
Yes.
Ole Benedict was very calm. John Paul II, did you find John Paul II?
I did, and
yes.
he served the longest.
Yes. John Paul II, there was even an assassination attempt on his life.
Yeah.
He was also very calm, but this one was very interesting.
Yes.
I remember there's a video of him akitembea and then some lady grabbed him. Na kamvuta. Pope alichapa hiyo mkono, pap, toa hii hapa.
Why? Akutaka kusema who touched my robe?
Una behave aje wewe. Very interesting. The Star, I think we've focused a lot on that. Let's focus on the other front page of the Star, which talks about other stories. Remember, today is a free copy of this paper, not for sale. So, the return of big money Harambes, officials giving huge contributions to build God's house, led of course by none other than His Excellency the President, who caused quite some controversy. Juzi wakidonate pesa, ilikuwa ngapi? 120 million shillings. Or he donated 20 million, alafu akasema 100 ingine inakuja. Watu wakasema tunaenda hiyo kanisa. So that's a big story on pages 4 and 5. They always do a spread of their big story. So you'll find that the Star, what they've done with this headline, they've done like 4 pages of this dedicated to the Pope, and then now they come to this. So it's like 2 papers in one.
One day, my plan to switch things up in the energy sector. The story is on page 9, and Asema plans are underway to float KPC shares at the NSC to help fund the government public sector development programs. Hiyo itasaidia kweli. Anasema kwamba hapo kwa energy sector kuna chances of helping the government and the public sector with development programs. GSU officer who shot bar attendant loses appeal. A GSU officer entered a bar in Kisii town armed with a pistol and started swearing in Ekigusi, saying, I will kill someone with a gun, shortly after he shot an attendant who was demanding payment for his drinks and food. Now, the tragedy happened on April 11, 2019. The Court of Appeal upheld a High Court verdict against Joseph Mauri. Same thing happened somewhere, lakini huyu amelose appeal. Too bad.
Yes.
No people.
Well, he'll have to spend some time behind bars.
Yes. Yeah. Lost son reunites with family after 14 years. That's some good news there. A miracle, they say. 14 years is quite a long time. Mtu anarudi unashangai.
And he left when he was 5. 14 years later, huyo jamaa amegrow sana.
5?
Yeah.
That's like 19?
He is 19 now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fresh, independent, different. That's the Star, not for sale today.
And it comes with a complimentary pullout of MyGov for government tenders and jobs. So you grab yourself a copy of the Star. If you have 60 bob anywhere in Kenya, you can get this. Plus the other one that pays tribute to Pope Francis. Finally, Business Daily.
Tuanze na Pope or why equity. Pope Francis, pontiff who changed the church, is given space there on the front page of the Business Daily. Why Equity, KCB must sell 30% DRC stakes, and Equity and KCB must sell stakes of at least 30% each in the subsidiaries in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which may dampen the bank's ambition to reduce reliance on the Kenya operations. Now, the DRC central bank, that is Banque Centrale du Congo, requires banks operating in the Central African nation to have at least 4 unrelated shares, including current owners, to hold a minimum stake of 15% each by the end of 2026 to spread risks. That story is on page 4. EPRA sets cooking gas dealer permit limit at 30,000 cylinders. They say investors will be required to have a minimum of 30,000 cylinders as a prerequisite for LPG dealership in new changes aimed at weeding out cartels and middlemen. Yani there are cartels everywhere, hadi kwa gas.
Kila mahali.
On the ticker, court ruling strikes a blow for equal pay for equal work. It is unlawful for employers to pay an employee less than their counterparts in similar position, a court has ruled.
Interesting.
Acha nirudie. Court ruling strikes a blow for equal pay for equal work.
Ile pesa unalipwa
Koma
mingi.
kabisa. That story is on page 4.
I need
Title deed
I need to see your payslip.
Title deed hurdles hit uptake of affordable housing loans. They say Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company has flagged lengthy processing and registration of title deeds as a bottleneck in funding the purchase of houses. And that's the Business Daily.
All right. So that's as far as the local dailies are concerned. A lot of focus, of course, on Pope Francis, who passed on yesterday morning. State of the Nation coming your way at 6:30 in a few minutes' time, actually in a minute's time. MPs James Gakuya and David Kiplagat of Embakasi North and Soi alongside wakili Ishmael Nyaribo will be in studio. Tuangazie karakacha tuone wanazungumzia nini leo. And we start off with this one. That's a Star. And it has kuna upande mbili na kuna upande moja watu ni kama wanakimbia huko. Hapa. So what this is a political environment currently with everyone running towards Wamunyoro. I think more people in this cartoon are on that side. Na huyu jamaa wa Munyoro alipitia huko Kutengela na Mlolongo wakapiga kelele sana. On this other side is a caricature of the president and his newfound broad-based allies. And they have a budget to consider. Actually, in slightly more than a month, we'll be talking about matters budget and a possible finance bill. Now, how do you navigate through that debate with all this political upheaval?
Yeah.
That's a cartoon on the Star.
This is the Daily Nation paying tribute to the Pope. The Pope is quoted there, have the courage to swim against the tide and also have the courage to be happy. Pope Francis, also known as George Mario Bergoglio, also known as Pope Francis, 1936 to 2025. All
right. The Standard, same thing, tribute to the Pope. And here he says, there can be no peace without freedom of religion, thought, and expression. Pope Francis, rest in peace. And I like the way they've caricatured him here with his typical happy face. He was always smiling, ever smiling. The other Pope, Pope Benedict, I don't remember him smiling. He just wore a very flat face.
Is it the one who resigned?
The one who retired and said yes.
Or he was sick?
Yes.
Okay.
It was German.
People Daily. ODM loyalists wana kick chungwa kule juu to the mountain, is it?
No, watu wameingilia Orengo sana.
What was that bodyguard doing to Orengo?
Wanamwogopa, wanasema huyu aminiki.
You're a threat.
When he spoke and he was very vocal when the president was there during the funeral of George Odwor. And Orengo akasema, me what I'm seeing here, we cannot go back to that kind of psychophancy. Hapa tuseme ukweli, and the president was there. Watu wamekasirika wakasema tutakutoa ODM. But mimi nauliza, kweli mnafikiria huyu jamaa anaweza ongea hivi without the blessing of the party leader? Or the way Edwin Sifuna, the party SG. The ODM party we know. Wangekuwa wamefurushwa tayari. But because Raila Odinga is just sitting and listening to them, something is happening, something is cooking.
Lakini why? Why was the bodyguard anamkataza kukaribia baba, you know?
Yes, yes. Najua pia a new bodyguard pia lazima aonyeshe anaweza fanya kazi.
Wewe.
All right, so these are just some of the discussions we'll be having with my panelists after the break.